Hi, I'm Marc Cunningham with Grace Management and Real Estate. One thing you need to consider if you own rental property, everybody has to consider it, is are they going to self-manage that property or are they going to hire a professional property manager to do it for them? It's a fair question to ask yourself. So here are 4 questions, specific questions to ask yourself as you decide whether or not you want to self-manage or whether or not you want to hire a professional property management company. Number 1, do I have the time? We're all busy. If you're running a full-time job and you've got a busy lifestyle and you're also going to self-manage your property, you need to think very, very hard about that. When you're advertising the property and a prospect calls with interest in it, if you're at your job and you can't pick up the phone immediately and give that potential client information about the property, that's going to impact you negatively. You need to be able to respond quickly and very, very fast to applicants as they come in, to your current tenant once they're in place, but time is a huge part of why people typically will hire a property management company, because sometimes it can be easy, but sometimes it does take a lot of time. And when that 3 a.m. call comes in that the hot water heater just blew up, because for some reason hot water heaters only go out between the hours of 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. on the weekends. Other than that, they work perfectly. That's what we find. But are you going to take that call? Are you going to keep your phone by the bed? If so, maybe do it. But think through the time aspect. Number 2, do I know the law? This is a big deal nowadays when it comes to property management. Think of fair housing. Do you know how many protected classes there are? Do you know what those classes are? What specifically the classes are? Do you know that Colorado has specific additional protected classes of individuals beyond the federal guidelines? Did you know that the city of Denver has additional classes of protected people? You need to know this. Do you know not only what they are, but specifically how you navigate that? What are you going to do if a prospect calls or your tenant calls and says, can I bring in a service animal? If you answer wrong in that one question, you just found yourself potentially in violation of HUD. There will be an investigation, and you don't want to mess with HUD. Their penalties are very, very steep, so you need to be cautious with that. How about security deposit returns? Do you know how long you have legally to return your security deposit return to your tenant in the state of Colorado? The law has a very, very set, clear time. It's 30 days, unless your lease states other, in which case it can be a maximum of 60 days. But what happens if you miss that? What happens if you hit day 31? Guess what? You just lost all rights to retain any of that security deposit. And by the way, you're also going to be liable to return 3 times the amount of the security deposit that you were holding because you missed it by a day. You don't want to mess with this stuff. Do you know that you have to have a CO detector installed in your property? Do you know that it has to be within a certain distance to each bedroom? Do you know what the distance is? Do you know what the penalties are if you don't have that done? You have to know the law if you're going to self-manage. Number 3, do you have the temperament? A lot of folks that hire us have been self-managing for a period of time, and they call and they say, I just can't do this anymore. My tenant's driving me nuts, and I don't have the temperament for it. I get too upset at them and it's just turning combative. You need to be able to ensure that you have that proper temperament to deal with your tenants. You've got to be fair, you've got to be firm, and it's hard to do. As the landlord, when you self-own your property, you want to be the nice guy, but sometimes we find that tenants will push as far as we let them push us. So make sure that you're being firm but fair, and don't get emotionally attached to your property. It's an investment property. Number 4, do you have the knowledge? You've got to know a lot about this industry. Do you know how you're going to advertise your property? Do you know what questions you're going to ask to pre-qualify the applicant before you even allow them to fill out an application? How are you going to process that application? Are you going to just look at their credit report? Are you going to do a background report? How about their criminal check? How about a sexual predator check? How are you going to do that? Where are you going to get your lease agreement? How are you going to explain that lease agreement to the tenant? What are you going to say to them when they call and ask if they can pay late? You've got to have the knowledge on the front end, because you don't want to learn on your own property. You want to hire someone that has learned previously and that you can glean their knowledge. So that's really what it comes down to. If you can manage your property and run it like a business, then maybe you do want to self-manage. But if you can't run it like a business and you aren't confident in your own abilities to have the time, to know the law, to have the temperament, and to have the knowledge, then you want to seriously consider hiring a professional property management company.